How porn is likely destroying your relationship and you aren't even aware. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. Let me explain it to you. In this video, we are actually going to cover 5 points. I normally cover 3. Today, we're going to go through 5. And after that, I'm going to give you an awesome brain tip so that you can get your relationships back online, so that you can thrive and be happy and build the connection that you are looking for. Okay, so everything I'm going to tell you is based on science, and the scientific studies will be posted on a blog post of the same name at my website, drtrishleigh.com. Okay, so if you want the science, please go there to find it because it's difficult to post it in lots of different places. Okay, so what the science shows is that there is decreased relationship satisfaction when pornography is in the mix of a relationship. And this shows up in many different ways. So number one we're going to talk about is there's many studies that show that partners are less satisfied when one, usually the man, sorry men, when the one partner is consuming pornography frequently and consistently. And this impacts relationships in, I've talked about this before. First of all, if you are the person consuming pornography, you have higher expectations of your partner because you're used to this super normal stimulus of pornography. And your brain has been hijacked to need this massive level of intensity of that dopamine flood that your brain gets in a very artificial way from a very artificial source, being the screen. So when you go back to the screen, especially when it has intensity, your brain gets used to that. So then when it's time to be with your partner, your satisfaction goes down. Your brain can't possibly get the dopamine release that it gets from the screen. That's why pornography is known to be a super normal stimulus. Your partner is a normal stimulus. And that's healthy. That's what we want. Normal stimuli to keep your brain in that calm focus mode and not swinging between the extremes of high highs and low lows. So we'll talk about the way out in just a few minutes. Okay, so we know satisfaction goes down for the person who's consuming pornography, and there's many different ways, but I'm not going to go into all of them in this video. At the same time, the partner is experiencing less satisfaction as well because objectification is entered into the sexual relationship. And I've talked before about the difference between healthy sexuality and unhealthy or addictive type of sexuality. When it's healthy sexuality, it includes intensity at the perfect levels, eroticism, tapping into your animal nature in a vulnerable way with another person. And when you're vulnerable with that special person in your life, it actually makes you invulnerable. Nothing can hurt you because you're in this connected space with another person. And then you can share yourself and enjoy it. And you can get pleasure and happiness and joy at the perfect levels of intensity. So it's intensity, eroticism, and connection. So we know pornography use is up in pandemic times because people are disconnected from each other. What you're actually looking for is connection to another human being. If you can't find that right now, we've talked about that in a different video, and you can go watch the video on intimacy, building intimacy. But when you have healthy sexuality, you build intimacy. That is proven to be destroyed for partners in an unhealthy sexual relationship, and that's why relationship and sexuality goes down in terms of satisfaction. That's number one. Okay, number two, another study shows that there's a higher incidence of emotional abuse in relationships when one partner consumes pornography. I talked about this in the Ising video. So emotional abuse, I know that sounds like a big term and a big concept. It is. But the way that it happens is so low grade. So we know that a pornography habit is built on shame. We know that shame manifests in the world as blame, blaming another person or blaming yourself. Then it also shows up as the Isings, rationalizing your own behavior, making the other person think that their behavior is the problem. Gaslighting. There's minimizing of the behaviors. That's what emotional abuse is. It's taking the situation and twisting it all around so that it no longer makes sense. And that's a protective mechanism for you if you're consuming pornography. So you cover up and deal with the shame that your pornography habit is creating and perpetuating. So we know that science proves there's more emotional abuse in relationships where there's pornography consumption, which is destroying your relationship. And I have empathy for people who are hooked on porn, as you hopefully can feel off of me, because that's happening to you and you may not even be aware of it. It's happening at a neurological level, and then you're protecting yourself. And it all plays out without the partner who's consuming pornography really realizing that they're doing it. And then the other partner might not realize it, but what it does is it destroys the dynamics in a relationship. And I've talked to so many people who say, you know what? It ended my marriage. I'm not quite sure how, but it did. That's how. We know that satisfaction goes down, objectification of your partner enters in. You cannot possibly enjoy it as much as you enjoy pornography because it's a super normal stimulus. And then you start manipulating your partner, and they know it, but they're not totally sure of what's going on. Okay, now another study. This is a cool study. There's a study of 30 nations. So many people in 30 countries across the world. They studied if pornography benefited relationships, if it was neutral, or if it was negative, if it contributed negatively to relationships. So out of those 3 countries, the only finding that was the strongest was that it was never a positive contributor to relationships. It never made the relationship better by consuming pornography. So I get questions too from people that say, you know what, my partner's into it, so it seems like it's okay. Well, first of all, your partner might not be into it, but he or she is trying to be into it for you, because that happens with a lot of partners in the dynamics that are created. But even if your partner is into it, the research shows it's never going to positively contribute to your relationship. It's definitely at some point, if you keep consuming it with frequency, consistency, and especially intensity, going to damage your brain. It's proven to drop out activity of the frontal lobe, desensitize the reward center in the middle of your brain, which creates anxiety, depression, moodiness, relationship problems, erectile dysfunction, difficulty being happy in the world. So it's never going to add to your relationship, and it can only create that other stuff for you. So that's a huge takeaway from that study. Now, 2 more, the last 2 of our 5 points, and they go together, but they're based on 2 separate studies, is that relationship breakups are twice as likely to happen for unmarried people as if there's pornography in the mix than if there's not pornography in the mix. So let me say it again. If you're dating someone and you're in a relationship with them and you're consuming pornography, it's twice as likely that you'll have a breakup. Now, the second of those 2 findings in the 5 points that we're going through here is that the divorce rate is twice as likely if you're consuming pornography. So it is literally proven to break up relationships at twice the amount, never positively contributing to your relationship. So what do you do about it? I'm sorry to tell you, my friend, it's time to leave the habit behind. You have to uncouple your brain from the screen. You have to resensitize the reward center in your midbrain, and you have to bring that frontal lobe back online so that you can enjoy being with your partner. Because likely if you don't, it has to do with your brain, because it's gone back to pornography so many times. It's likely not even the case that you truly aren't, attracted to your partner. It's likely that your brain needs to be healed, and then you'll see that attraction again. And I've worked with many, many people that's the case. So how do you do it? It's complex and it's comprehensive. So these are the 3 main points that need to be dealt with, and I talk about them in all the videos that I make. There's likely trauma from the past that needs to be healed, because it creates rigidity in your brain, and it locks your brain in the mode that needs to keep going back to the screen for self-soothing. So if you have childhood experiences that you've tucked into a corner of your brain, it's time to untuck it and to resolve it and have it move through your nervous system so your brain can be free to change and heal. That's number one. You have to unwire that pattern that's in there that's driving you back to the screen. Number two, you have to rewire your brain. You must change routines, habits, thought processes. Very important to look at how you're thinking and to change it towards the positive by getting on purpose in your life. And yes, you can do it. People tell me all the time, you can do that, Trish, but I can't do that. We all can do that if we want to. So change your routines, habits, thought processes, figure out what you're feeling, and deal with those emotions. Build the neural pathways that move you towards solution, not towards escapism into that screen. So figure out what you're feeling, and if you're stressed or you're bored, take an action step towards solving that. Don't run from it because you will be damaging your brain. And lastly, you have to hardwire in that pattern, that optimal mode over the long run. Or, it's sobriety doesn't equal recovery. So just staying away from the habit doesn't mean you're healing your brain in there. You must unwire, rewire, and hardwire in that pattern. It's Hebb's law. And you will create a positive feedback loop for long-term permanent change. And it can be done. I am here to tell you it can be done for you. No matter what you have going on, if you can commit 100% to this process and you can develop the discipline and the resilience that is necessary to stay away from the habit, your brain can heal. And the more strategies and the more techniques and tools and of course support that you put in place, the greater you're going to succeed. But it can be done. That definitely is hope and optimism, but I'm a pragmatic optimist, which means I don't, just think around. You can think that you can sit around hoping to get better. You have to make the commitment, develop the internal strength to be able to do it, and then use the right strategies. That's the pragmatic part, but you can do it. If you're looking for help on this journey, I'd love to help you. Go on over to drtrishleigh.com. I have new programs in all kinds of shapes and sizes to be able to help on your journey. And yes, I can help. I can help you heal yourself. That's the role that I play. So go check it out, and always remember, control your brain or it'll control you.